In this tutorial, we're looking at line management. When you log on to the system as a line manager, this is usually the default menu that you'll see. So as well as seeing yourself, you have the ability to click on the My Staff tab and see the members of staff that you line manage. So this dashboard allows you to get an overview of all the activity of the members of staff that you line manage. So you're able to look at their objectives and how they're reviewed so far, look at all the monitoring that has taken place for your members of staff, the reviewing of standards, both by the line manager, but also about what the member of staff has reviewed themselves against, a record of all the activity that's taken place, and a record of any kind of professional discussions interim that's taken place. What we're going to do now is to drill down into this specific member of staff. So your view is exactly the same as what a member of staff can see when they log onto their own portfolio. The difference is that you will have a few more access rights. So activity feed, you get a record of all of Jessica's activity. And if you so wish, you're able to add any comments of any kind of activity that's happening within the system. You also have the ability to add a blog, which is particularly useful if you wanted to develop some kind of coaching conversation. A record of all the evidence that has been uploaded, and you have the ability to filter. So for example, this would be all the evidence linked to a specific objective. Collaborators. Jessica, in mutual discussion with yourself, has the ability to select other members of staff to help her develop her portfolio. So to do this, as line manager, you click on Add Collaborator, choose a specific member of staff, and then decide what rights you want them to see. So for example, all of this is exactly the same as everything here in Jessica's portfolio. And what you might decide is, if it happened to be a colleague, you wouldn't want them to see everything. So it might be that you're just going to allow the person to add a blog. Objectives. As a line manager, usually you oversee the appraisal process. So what actually happens is there are two ways. One is you can click Add Objective, put in the details of the objective, link it to a school development plan if you so wish, if this function is turned on. Put the performance criteria, i.e. the extra detail to explain that objective. Add some evidence, so some guidance on how to achieve that objective. So whether it be a lesson observation, work tools, research projects, so be it. Actions, which are the steps to success to achieve those objectives, which you can add by just clicking Add here. You may also find that it's decided that scaffold objectives are already uploaded. So for example, when you come to open up Jessica's area, you may find that some objectives are already in place. And what actually happens is you can edit them accordingly and click Save. Monitoring. A record here of all the monitoring that's taken place, and have the ability to actually add monitoring by clicking here. Choosing a form that's linked to this specific member of staff. So for example, you can have forms that are linked to main scale teachers and different forms that might be linked to support staff. Choose a particular form, choose a focus, choose the date in which the monitoring is going to take place, choose the observer, and in the case of here, when you choose the date, click Run Now. And the form then appears. Complete the form and save it accordingly. Standards. These are related to the person's career expectation. In the case of here, they're linked to teaching standards. And what actually happens is, as there's more evidence collected within the system here, you're asking the member of staff to review themselves against them, but also you have the ability to actually review them as well. And as you change it, what actually happens is you can see this changes here, and this becomes your professional discussion if the two are the same or as different. If they happen to be different, what actually happens is all you need to do is ask the member of staff to add evidence against specific standards, and then obviously then you've got the evidence to change the standard accordingly. Areas for development, these are usually linked to monitoring, but at any time you have the ability as a line manager to add an area of development, add a next step, put the area in, put the action of which you want them to complete it, and then what due date. And the idea is then just add it accordingly. CPD, this is a record of all the CPD that Jessica has taken part in. And if you so wish, you're able to add an activity for Jessica, or you can put a request in for some CPD, but remember that the flow normally goes from Jessica to the line manager anyway. Here is a record of all the school development plan that Jessica's involved in, and from here she's able to add evidence against any of these. Interim review, professional discussions. So as a line manager, you have the ability to come into here to add an interim review. Title, date is the default set for today's date. Put some details in. If you wanted to just have the professional discussion not linked to any of these, you can do so, and just put some notes of your conversation in here. So this function doesn't have to be linked to all these functions. If you don't want it to be, it could just be a catch-up. These are the objectives, and again, you look at the evidence to see what's in place, and if you wanted to, you could put some comments in here and change the status. A record of all the monitoring that's taken place. A record of the standards. So we're going to ask, in the case of here, to Jessica to review herself against the standards, and you have the ability then to come in here based on the evidence and change accordingly. A record of all the areas development, and again during your professional discussion you have the ability to change this rating. A record of all the CPD, so the idea is looking at what's planned, what's taken part. If it's planned and expired, the idea then is just to ask and say, can you update it, whether it's been attended or not attended. Both parties, if you so wish, have the ability to put their comments in accordingly and click add. So this becomes a record of the professional conversations that have taken place. At the end of the whole process, you have the ability then of coming up to here and actually closing the review. So this is a reflection about everything that's actually been put in place. Go through, change ratings accordingly, and then give a final review outcome. And that is an overseeing the process from a line manager perspective. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial.